What made you decide to do IVF already? How are you able to choose the gender of your baby through the IVF process? This is like our most asked price. So here is the price list. Hello! So, I wanted to show you my 26-week bump. Guys. Wow. I grew. This is crazy. Like, my gosh, I still can't believe it that I'm this big already. Look at that. Baby. Anyway, I am a week away from 7 months, and finally I'm going to do the IVF Q&A. I'll do it. I'm just making the aircon colder outside, and then I'm gonna cover up, and then let's do the Q&A, because I know this is something you guys have been waiting for a while, and let's get on with it. Okay, let's start. I'm gonna lean, guys. It's not very comfy not to like sit properly. Anyway, so as you all know, I actually did IVF to conceive the baby that I'm carrying right now. So for those of you who don't know, I did my egg freezing last year around September, October, and I did it in Bangkok. It was in a clinic called iBaby, and let's begin the Q&A because I know a lot of you are curious as to everything, like how we did everything, the price. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna be very, very honest and transparent about all of those things, and let's begin. Any lifestyle changes or diet you chose to take before? Right? Okay, so I vlogged about this one. The lifestyle change I actually did was, first is I went to an immunologist. Every time a friend would message me asking me how I prepared for IVF or even egg freezing, I went to an immunologist first. So Ben and I flew all the way to Manila, and we saw one of the best. He was one of the most recommended by a lot of the moms who are struggling to conceive, who are my friends, and his name is Doc CJ Gloria. He is in St. Luke's, BGC, and from then on, he checked the blood test that I did given by my OB a few months ago. So a few months ago, I did a whole APAS panel. It was my OB who actually requested that. But the thing and the difference between my OB and my immunologist is they saw that my ANA, which is called anti-nuclear antibodies, had a slight elevation to it, if I'm not mistaken. So my OB said it was okay. There's nothing, I mean, it's just a slight elevation, so it's fine. But with Doc CJ, he actually made me do a gluten-free diet, and he made me take probiotics. Yeah, prebiotics and probiotics. So it was the cultural, which I talked about in a vlog before. I also gave up alcohol. I don't smoke. Slept early, made sure that I wasn't stressed, and then my work was just really done at home. Maybe I would work once every 2 weeks. I would still vlog for you guys, but then that didn't really stress me out. It was more of like something that relaxed me. So there, those were the lifestyle changes that I did. And diet. Were you taking any vitamins to boost fertility before you started IVF? So I actually started taking prenatal vitamins almost 2 years ago before I got to conceive. So it was my OB who gave me the list. I remember she gave me folic acid, she gave me omega-3. I took OB-min for a while even, but I stopped prior to IVF. The IVF clinic in Bangkok actually recommends you to take a whole slew of vitamins, which I will be sharing with you guys. So they sell all of this. They actually recommended for me to take all of these before my egg freezing, right from the very start. So it is fish oil, asta, CoQ10, vitamin E, L-carnitine, and albumin. And then they required Ben to take zinc, CoQ10, vitamin E, and L-carnitine. So this one, we took it, except the albumin and the asta, while I was in the Philippines before we flew for my egg freezing. And then I continued it until around November, I think. I stopped it. I laid off it because I felt like I had so much meds in my body already. And before embryo freezing, I just took fish oil, CoQ10, folic acid, and vitamin C. That's it, just to boost my immunity. tips on how to prepare physically for IVF. I really did low impact workouts. I forgot to tell you that my immunologist recommended that as well because of my slight elevation with my anti-nuclear antibodies. So it was more of Pilates, yoga, that's what I stuck to, and I would work out 3 to 4 times a week, I remember. I had too much injectables, but you only took meds. I actually had injectables as well. They injected hormones on my body once a day for I think 8 days or 7 days, and then on my 8th day it was 2 because they tested my blood and then I needed to up some medicine, and then I did a trigger shot 40 hours or 48 hours before the egg freezing. And then for the IVF itself and the embryo transfer, I just did take meds for that one. It was more of hormones, and I'm going to list it down. Okay, I got my código, guys, so it's easier for me to remember. So with the meds that I took, I have it all here. I actually took Progenova. So I took estradiol, I took ultragestan, I took dufaston, I took ASA, and I took ultragestan vaginal suppository. So those are the ones that I took for my transfer or before my transfer, and they were trying to thicken my uterus linings to make it viable for IVF, or so that the baby would survive inside, or the embryo would survive. So that was about a few days during my periods. That was when we arrived in Bangkok. So there, and those were all the meds I took during my embryo transfer. How to keep anxiety in check during the whole process. So the whole, you know what, when I was looking back on my videos and vlogs, I think the number one thing that really helped me was I wasn't at home. Like, I wasn't in our house. I felt like, because I was in a hotel, and I just really felt like I was on vacation. That was one. That's why I would always recommend doing it abroad if you have the means to do it. Number 2 is it really helped that it was just mostly me and Ben during the 7-day wait, because Ben is really such a calm person. He is the type of person to be very chill about things that we can't control. He's the type to really know how to keep me in check. So I think that's really one important thing, to choose or make sure your husband, or talk to your husband prior and tell him to keep your hormones or emotions at bay, because that really helps. Another one is I prayed a lot during that wait. And I think prior to having the embryo transfer, because I knew that we had 4 embryos, if this doesn't work, that I had 3 more chances to do it. I really made sure to mentally remind myself that this was just our first try, and we really had a couple of tries more to do, and that's the reason why we actually chose a boy. That was the first embryo that we chose, and a lot of you guys are asking us. So here's the thing with twins: we can have twins if we did want to have twins, but the doctor in Bangkok, he actually said, if we don't want twins, it's better that we just implant one, because your body will just concentrate on making that one embryo live, unless you really want twins as babies, not because like you feel like there's higher chances that one baby will survive because you put twins. I have 2 friends who also did it in the US for IVF, and the doctor said the same thing, that it doesn't mean that if you put twins that there's a greater chance that one or both will survive. It's actually harder for both to survive, because either they will fight for the nutrients in your body and for the hormones, or your body is concentrating too much on making both live, that there's a big chance that both will not stick. So that was also another thing that I noticed with moms who reached out to me who did it here in the Philippines. Their clinic recommended that they put 2 so that there's higher chances that one will survive, which maybe in the studies or in the statistics of the Philippines, maybe that's viable, or that's something that's true, but in Thailand, where I went, the clinic that I went to, and the 2 friends that who did it in San Francisco, and then another friend who did it in Taiwan, said that's not something that their clinic believes in. Okay, let's go to why IVF. What made you decide to do IVF already? So this is a question that I got asked a lot. The reason why we did IVF is, if you guys remember, I had an emergency surgery February of 2023. Had a chocolate cyst basically, and it was about 5 cm or 6 cm, and it leaked. So if you guys remember that vlog, I'll just put it here or put the link in the description box so you guys would know. My endometriosis leaked, and when my doctor went inside during my surgery, she saw that it spread even up until my tubes. So she unblocked it, but she said that I had stage 4 endometriosis, which is the highest stage of endometriosis, and she actually was the one who suggested that we do egg freezing ASAP, and if we really do want to have a baby, to have IVF ASAP as well, because if my cyst goes back and it gets bigger, it's gonna be harder for me to do IVF once I have all of that and it leaked, and my uterus, and because of the surgery, my uterus lining is actually thinner, because of course to remove the chocolate cyst, which is very, very sticky, it sticks to your wall and your tube, so she had to scrape my wall, right? So it means my uterine lining was getting thinner. So if I delay it more, then there's less chances of me conceiving naturally, or at least it was like more of a reserve. So the egg freezing was something that she really insisted that we did ASAP. That's why from Feb up until August, when I was very clean, she told us we can try naturally. That was almost 6 months of trying naturally because I was clean inside. But I did not get pregnant again naturally in that 6 months. So she said maybe it's time for us to do egg freezing or embryo freezing, which we did. September came, we did embryo freezing. Come around November, I think that was Ben who told me that he really, really wanted a baby already. Like, really wanted ASAP before the next year came. So that was when we decided that January was the month that we were going to do IVF. And that it was time. It was really time to do the IVF. So that was the reason why. Did you try IUI before IVF? Why did you choose to get IVF done outside the Philippines? With IUI, my doctor didn't recommend it because, one, it's not a guarantee that it will happen, and it's uncomfy and hurts. And I feel like with IUI, because of the things that I have or the things that were wrong with me, I feel like we were just setting ourselves up for failure. I also spoke to a lot of my friends who did IUI before trying IVF, and then all of theirs failed. Like, I did not have a close friend where the IUI was successful, so I didn't want to go through that. Why did you choose to Taiwan? Shall we do price? Maybe we should do price. You guys love price. This is like our most asked price. So here is the price list. So I think just for the IVF and the embryo freezing alone, without the ticket and our hotel, we spent almost around 750,000 pesos. Or maybe 800, fine, depending on the exchange rate that you're going to base it on. But it's about 750 to 800,000 pesos. So what you're gonna pay for is the pre-screening female and male package, which is 10,000 and 4,500 baht. And then that includes everything. So the lab screening, estradiol, LH, FH, whatever, the prolactin, and for Ben, the lab screening, HB typing, sperm analysis, doctor fee, service fee. So that's all in for that. The next one, the thing that we chose was the stimulation IVF XCET package, which is egg stimulation, PV, OPU, so this is the ovum pickup date, ICSI, which is the intracytoplasmic sperm injection, blastocyst culture, or embryo transfer. So all in all, that is 270,000 baht. This prices that I have, just to take note, is 2023 price list. I'm not sure if they increased already. Next one, we did the PGD NGS testing, which was the chromosome testing that I was telling you guys about. That is 150,000 baht. and that is 10 embryos. For the embryo freezing, of course, we have to store embryos. So the first one-time pay that we have to do is 20,000. The first year that we're going to freeze our embryos. For the succeeding year, it's 2,000 baht per embryo per year. So with the 3 remaining embryos that we have, it's 6,000 baht, which is gonna come out around 10,000 pesos, I think. 11,000 pesos per year to store the embryos left. So there, that is the one. And then I did extras during my embryo transfer. I did the embryo glue. I did the glucose IV drip, which is 5,000. Embryo glue was 10,000. And I think I did a tractocyle, which is 12,000 baht. So all of those, they said it's supposed to increase the chances of it holding on by 10%. So Ben and I took the chance. We paid for all of that. So basically, this is the calculation, and that is how much we paid for. If we were to put in how much did it cost all in all with lodging, airfare, etc. Lodging and airfare. Okay, so we took the very, very relaxing route. So we did business class, we did lodging, which we got a whole penthouse suite. We're just lucky that in Bangkok, hotels there are very cheap. Like our whole penthouse suite that you guys saw, the very first one, I think we paid about 13,000 pesos with all the discounts that I had because of my credit card rewards each night. So all in all, but then we transferred to a cheaper hotel. It was around 8,000 or 9,000 pesos for that 1-bedroom suite. So all in all, maybe for embryo freezing and my embryo transfer, the whole IVF process, we probably spent around 1.2, 1.3 with lodging, airfare, food, grocery, all my meds, and the whole process itself, the IVF. So one thing I didn't get to include in the price are my medicines. The reason why I didn't include it is because it really depends on you how much you need it. So I did talk about earlier what medicines I had to take prior to the embryo transfer. I had to take all of that even after embryo transfer up until my 2nd trimester. So all of those, I probably spent maybe about 40 to 50,000 pesos for 3 months and 10 days worth of medicines. So that was, maybe if you add it up, so it is gonna be around 800,000 pesos if you include the medicines. How often do you need to travel to Bangkok? So for the embryo transfer, we stayed a total of 3 weeks because we booked our ticket 2 days before I was scheduled to have my period. But my period didn't come for almost a week. So we were doing nothing for a week, me and Ben. So the whole process took about, up until egg retrieval, was 10 days, I believe. So if you do time it, they actually recommended us to fly the morning of the 2nd day of your period, because on your first day, you can either fly in or you can opt for on the day itself that you're going to get checked. But for this clinic, you do get checked on the 2nd day of your period. So it's up to you to book your flight on the day. If you want to leave tonight and say, oh, I got my period, I'll leave tonight for Bangkok. Or you can opt for the next morning because they're open up until 5, I think, or 3 p.m. So bahala na kayo depending on what flight you get. The procedure takes about 10 days for the egg collection and the embryo freezing, but they recommend you to fly 2 days after your procedure because you might have OHSS, which is ovarian something stimulation. It's when it's like a very rare chance that your ovaries are overstimulated and it becomes maga, so you need to take meds for it. But that's about 2 days after, where your doctor will clear you. If everything's okay, you're gonna get another ultrasound and a blood test, and then if everything's okay, you can fly home. But the thing is, we stayed 3 weeks because, again, that week where my period didn't come, imagine the mind fuck, right? We thought like, oh my god, maybe I am pregnant, like before doing this whole IVF, but no, it came a week later. We did a 12-day wait, and then I think we spent another few days because Ben's mom came after my procedure, so we can go on vacation. So for the IVF itself, you have to go on the time that you're ovulating. So Ben and I opted to go a few days before I was gonna ovulate so that we can have a vacation before our IVF. And then after that, we waited even for my uterine lining to become viable or thick enough. I think it was 8 mm if I remember correctly. And then after that, we did the transfer. From a transfer on the 7th day, you actually get tested, your very first pregnancy test. And then after that, your 10th day, that's when they check again for your HCG if it's increasing, because it means the pregnancy is viable. So on the 10th day, we got the higher HCG, and then they told us that we can already fly out if we wanted to. But the thing is, Ben and I wanted to wait for a few more days up until I was officially a month pregnant before I flew home, because of course going through the airport, flying can be very stressful for you physically, mentally, emotionally, especially because the flights going to Cebu were at around 1 a.m. and then any airline was always delayed. So Ben and I made sure that the baby was a little bit bigger before we flew home. So for the HCG, I actually have all my HCGs here. So we tested on our 7th day, and my HCG was 165.72. Anything above 100 is good. Anything below 100 is still like there's a chance that it will progress. Then on the 10th day, I was 935.91, so it was a very good sign for us. And then the next HCG was 2,388. Yeah, there. That was the last time before we flew home. When they actually implant an embryo on you, we learned that the embryo is actually 2.5 weeks old already. So we stayed for 2.5 weeks after the embryo transfer before I was a month pregnant. So that's when we flew home. Like right on the day that I turned 1 month, that's when we flew home to Cebu and brought our baby home. I'm sorry, this is like a long vlog already, but I just really want to share and be very transparent about the things that you guys are curious about. So for the details, if you did a frozen transfer, what was your FET protocol? Was it a one-hit wonder? I did do the frozen embryo transfer. There's also something called fresh embryo transfer, where they just combine the egg with the sperm. It was a one-hit wonder. We're very, very happy about that. Are you going to do it again for baby number 2? Is that part of plans? You know, what I learned with this pregnancy and the fertility journey is it's not a smart thing to plan. One of the things that really helped me with stress and anxiety with this pregnancy and towards the IVF journey was I didn't plan. So for baby number 2, if God will give it to us naturally, then amazing. But if we have to do IVF again, then amazing. I'll do it if we do decide to have a baby number 2. What was the hardest part of the process, and was embryo transfer painful? The hardest part of the process, I think, is the wait, of course, and to keep yourself from getting anxious that it might not happen, because of course you're going through so much physically, emotionally, mentally, that if it was a failed procedure, then I think it was just really the unknown. That if it was a failed procedure, I don't know how I'll feel. Of course I'd feel bad, but I don't know the extent of how bad I'll feel. And I think that was the hardest part, the wait. Number 2, I think the other hard part was I was so scared that I would fail Ben, because he really, really wanted a baby already by that time, and I did want it. Of course, we were we were naturally trying for almost 2 years before we did this procedure, and I did make myself go through 2 surgeries, embryo freezing, and then this one. So of course I wanted it, but when it was Ben, he never really is a type of person to ask me so much about what he wants. So when he said that he really wants to do it ASAP, I was just so scared that I would fail him, because of course it's my body who is making this baby survive. So there, that was the hard part. About pain, it's mostly uncomfy, the embryo transfer. Basically how it goes is they make you go through an operating room and then they strap you in. This is like the egg retrieval, and then your legs are propped up like that, wide open. 2 strangers. Doctor comes in with the embryo, and there's a little TV here where you can see them put the embryo inside you. It's like a little, not needle, but like a little tube where you'll see your uterus, pregnancy brain. But there's like a little tube where you'll see like, oh, there's like a little embryo baby that's gonna go inside. So that was very scary for me, because again, I went through surgeries already, so I just really hate operating rooms in general, and there's no anesthesia, by the way, but it doesn't hurt, it's more uncomfy. I feel like that moment was very enlightening for me, because again, I was so scared and nervous because of the procedure that it might hurt, even if they said it won't hurt. So I was actually praying the rosary while waiting for my transfer to happen. Then I was really praying so hard when they were, and I had my rosary wrapped in my one hand, because you're like this, and then you're strapped like this, and then I was just really crying. I remember I was tearing and I was praying, like I was murmuring Hail Mary, and it was such an overwhelming moment, because the doctor, while he was putting the baby in, or the embryo in, he was saying, God bless you, like he probably repeated it 50 times. I'm just crying right now, because it was such a moment that I feel like really strengthened my faith. And I'm not sure what the doctor's religion is, but maybe because of course he saw that I had a rosary, he knew that my God was God, so he was putting it in, and he was like, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. And it was such a magical moment. I feel like God was really in that operating room when my baby was transferred to me. That's why Ben and I were so confident that this was God's gift to us. So even if we did go through so much in this pregnancy, like I bled, I had discharge, I have my placenta problem now, I always get reminded that this is God's gift to us, and whatever happens, it's His will. Like whatever happens to this baby, it's really from Him. So there. And the doctor, it wasn't the doctor that I was speaking to. I think it was an embryologist or another OB, but I knew it wasn't the doctor who took my eggs. It was a Dr. Bissett, I think that's his name. It was another doctor. So I never met him, don't know his name, but for him to do that while transferring, it was just like, it helped. What is a typical success rate of this method? I actually don't know. Maybe I can Google it. Daily routine, workout you did, or food you ate that helps hold the baby during the wait. So I did vlog about my whole experience. Again, I'll be putting the link up here or the link down there so you guys can rewatch it. How long can you keep your embryos frozen? That's something I should ask my doctor. For the last 2 questions, any advice for a 31-year-old with a long-time partner na hindi na blessed with a baby? Guys, just really enjoy the time that you're in now. If ever it's been a while, I know that, I don't know, it's really you who could tell if it's been a while, if you really want a baby. Ours was even just 2 years and we already did IVF. There are some couples I know who would wait 5 years, 7 years, 10 years before they would do IVF, and that's when they felt like they should do IVF. It really depends on you guys. But then if you feel like you want to do it already, just go for it. If you have the means, do it. It's gonna be a very long, hard, sometimes painful process because you don't get it on the first try. But I'm telling you, now that I am pregnant, now that I'm going 7 months, or I am 7 months, it's really the best feeling ever. All of those things I forgot. Like all of the things all the surgeries that I had to do to get to here, all the hardships of my first trimester. Oh my god, it's just so worth it. And I don't know how emotional I'll be when the baby is here pa, when I'm actually carrying my baby. But my advice is really just enjoy the season you're in. If you guys listen to a podcast I did about this journey of mine, that was the advice that I can give to all couples who are trying. Just enjoy the season that you're in, because for 2 years when we tried naturally, I felt like it was God teaching us to be more patient, to love each other more, to enjoy the time that we're living together, because we were LDR for 7 years before we got married. We had to know each other more, we had to enjoy ourselves more before this time, because all of those things really made and prepared us for the pregnancy that I have now. Because maybe God knew that my pregnancy won't be easy, so maybe He made us wait for 2 more years before we had this baby. Or if we did get pregnant 2 years ago or a year ago, we'll have a different baby. So this is the baby meant for us. And whatever happens, just enjoy the season you're in. Maybe that's why I feel like this pregnancy, people always tell me that I look so happy, because I would always keep that in mind. I'm not even the type to plan na, okay, when I give birth, I want this. When I give birth, ganyan. Or like, in 3 months, I'm not. I'm just really relishing the time that I'm in now. Now that I'm 7 months, I'm relishing the time that I'm on my 7th month. When I was on my 6th month and I was in honeymoon bliss of my 2nd trimester and I didn't feel almost any pain, I just felt the baby kicking. I was just enjoying all of that. I'm just enjoying being pregnant, enjoying that I can eat whatever I want. For the first time since I was a teenager, I can eat whatever I want and not care how much I weigh, how I look. I'm just enjoying every kick that I feel from the baby, every struggle that I have. So just really enjoy the season that you're in, because it's really going to prepare you for the pregnancy that you're meant to have and the baby that you're meant to have. Last, is it worth it to freeze eggs if you will try to conceive during your 30s or onwards? You know, if I'm gonna be blessed with a daughter, I am actually going to encourage her to freeze her eggs, and I'll pay for it, no problem. When she's about 26, 27, that sweet spot where your eggs are healthy and at its finest, at its most attractive, most beautiful, so that she doesn't have to have that burden to get married to someone she doesn't really love, or you know, she's just settling for whatever. She has to put her life on hold and her dreams on hold only because she feels like her time is ticking, her fertility clock is ticking. And with Ben, we spoke about this together and he agrees with me. If we are going to be blessed with a daughter, we're going to encourage her to do this on her late 20s, like to freeze her eggs so that she can live however she wants her life. Whenever she would get married, if she feels like she's finally found the right person to marry at like 35, 36, 37, it doesn't matter because she has eggs that are age 26, 27. So if you are single or still not ready, or in a relationship but still not ready to get married, or whatever, like, or your boyfriend of 10 years is not yet proposing to you, I suggest that one of the best gifts you can really give yourself is peace of mind. And peace of mind for a woman, then one of the number one things is the fertility clock. And if you actually freeze your eggs, the earlier the better. You're giving yourself the gift of peace of mind. So I would really recommend it to anyone. If you have the means to do it, you can do it even in Manila. But if you can do it in Thailand, you can do it in the US, then good for you. But if you really can, I suggest to do it ASAP. So there. I hope that I was very thorough and honest with this vlog. If you guys have any more questions, I feel like I already covered most of it. Do let me know in the comment section down below or send me a DM. And I'll try to answer it. So there, good luck to you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next vlog.